What a spectacular film, in my opinion. Worked on the Evangelion rebuilds. Our mobile suits are not supposed to be doing that. What's going on here? Hello, hello. um, it's your favorite internet anime personality. I'll sleep here. Here to essentially discuss Gundam G-Quirks, which this video will be covering pretty much me watching the film. Although, at this very moment that I'm recording this here, I have not gone out of my way to watch the film yet. From what I understand, Gundam G-Quirks is essentially alternate universe, divergent timeline from the original Gundam. I've heard that this is like Shin Gundam for Anno, because Anno's writing the scripts and stuff like that. I do really like the designs and stuff like that, especially by Take, the character designer, and the LD individuals behind Ava. Hi, this is me having watched Gundam G-Quirks in the theater. What a spectacular film, in my opinion. It was such a breath of fresh air. My theater, I went to go to the showing, my ticket stub, was seat G3, which, if you know the Gundam novel, trilogy novel, adaptation, the G3 is essentially Amuro Ray's, third Gundam, and it's reiterated whatever that he gets following the destruction of the Arc 78-2 in the novels. I'm a massive fan of the Universal Century, and especially 0079. That series, for me, I have a love and passion and everything with it, and especially in regards with Gundam G-Quirks, and especially the staff behind it, like in the broad scale of the anime landscape, like G-Quirks is a culmination. Well, to be more direct, Hideaki Anno, who's working on the project, in which he is my favorite director as a result of Neon Genesis Evangelion, and his association with the otaku community, and his countless works, and from his college days to today, having been a director for multiple films for Godzilla, the obvious Evangelion, Kamen Rider, the upcoming Space Battleship Yamato remake sort of film. I don't really understand whatever's going on with that, because there's already the remake series in 2000, which Anno directed the opening segment for that series. So my point is a massive Hideaki Anno fan, but also in respects to also his protege Kazuya Tsutamaki, who general audiences may know his work from Fooly Cooly and other such stuff, and I've likely mentioned in the earlier section and everything. So, especially in regards with Anno, like, this is a culmination of everything. Hideaki Anno is a massive fan of Yoshiki Tomino, massive fan of Hayao Miyazaki, and got into the anime industry following the Gundam boom of the late 70s. In which, brought forth the second generation of otakus, and the most, prominent and standing otaku that are, you see in media and depicted, and that would come to create, countless studios, as a result of the production of Yurusei Yatsura and the staff that worked on it, and with, eventually leading to, Green Lemon franchise, and Studio Gainax, and all culminating in the 90s with Neon Genesis Evangelion, and then post Evangelion with Haruki Suzumiya and other such titles, and whatever. I'm such a massive nerd of everything, but just this whole film, everything behind it and everything, it's just so good. I can't say however much more. Like the film, it was incredible. Like Kazi Tsutamaki, Hideaki Anno's protege, who worked on the um uh worked on the Evangelion rebuilds, and was the co-director for those films, and who found success following recognition following Fully Cooley, and also directing Hideaki Anno's seminal, like to describe, like debut anime, um which was Gunbuster, as a auteur and director. um he directed the sequel, which was Diebuster or Gunbuster 2, in which you can watch on Crunchyroll. All that stuff coming here with, it's like Japanese fans pointed out directly the premise of the whole show. And I've told you guys what I thought it was earlier, but here's the direct thing here, okay? So, for context, the plot, how Gundam is supposed to go, the original series, is that we have a young male protagonist, redhead, called Amuro Ray, who lives in Side 7, and who, has this next door neighbor, Frau Bao, and his two little stooges friends, who are Kai Shidan and Hayato. And they live on this peaceful colony that hasn't taken any side in the war. But things happen as a result of the war that's going on, because it's a future post collapse of capitalism, as the novel describes it, and the pollution of the earth. And so essentially, the rich and powerful live on Earth, while the average man or whatever is living out in space. With the rich having privilege of living on Earth and everything like that. And so the furthest colony from Earth proclaims itself as the Principality of Zeon. And, its leader, Zeon Daikun, although correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, if anything. That also pumps up engagement. But he comes up with this theory of the new type, the next evolution for man in the age of space here. As a result, in parallel of World War II and the Germans in that period of time under the leadership of an authoritarian fascist. So they take up essentially the new type idea, pervert it, and also assassinate Zeon Daikun, though technically it's not known who assassinated him, but he passes away. And so it leads to the Zabi family taking over the Daikun's ideas, Zeon's ideas, and perverting it and as for their own cause, and as to create the war that happens. And so they want to liberate themselves from Earth sphere. The Earth doesn't want that. They don't want them to have independence. And then, as a result of this, turmoil and politics and war, Zeon drops a colony on Earth, which is the first scene of the film. I'm explaining, it's a parallel, because this film essentially reimagines the original plot of Gundam, and then what happens as a result of whatever it changes. So, Amuro Ray is supposed to become the pilot of the RX-78-2. He is the son of the scientist who designed the Gundam G1 and 78-1 and the 78-2. And how the original series plot opens up is as Zeon sends recon forces onto Site 7 to discover what is the secret technology that the Federation is working on Side 7. As a result of, them going on to Side 7 and things like that, what that eventually leads to is conflict and confusion as they destroy a bunch of Federation materials and stuff like that. And what that happens is that the colony goes into lockdown and everything like that. And Amuro Ray takes up arms in his robot that his father designed and essentially defeats those Zeon forces. And essentially the refugees of Side 7, goes into the Pegasus class ship that is hiding in their colony and called White Base. Its captain dies, and so Bright Noah is supposed to become the captain. And, we meet our cast of characters of, Hayato, Kai, Seilamas, Mira, the children of Side 7, and, the whole Gundam family, like a whole, plot that centers around that, like, Amuro gets to pilot the RX-78-2. Now, this is how the story diverges. So the film opens up with the opening proclamation of this of the universal century that we exist in Gundam. And as I sat in the theater watching it, a way, because it's new animation and everything like that, but I felt the rush and the wave because I've watched the original the original film for Gundam, and also a handful of episodes of the original series. But my love for the original series is largely in regards to the films, the film trilogy that essentially revolutionized Japan's perception of anime and, proclamation of a new anime century that I mentioned earlier. So as I sat there and I'm watching the crawl, I can't help but to feel like a rush of emotion and everything, because I'm like, the teens or the young adults of 1980, who have had, pre-ordered their tickets for Gundam, which I did too. And I say this because I've recently read the manga, The Men Who Created Gundam, which, it's a work of fiction technically, but, it still gives like a lens to view that particular period in a similar respect to the likes of Otaku no Video, also made by Studio Gainax. So as I watched it, I was like, whoa, this is likely what people felt at the period. Sitting here, witnessing as you're engrossed by the opening crawl and entering in this world, future that Gundam is said to take place in this new universal century. There's the use of old animation techniques, and where, it's just it's like a fully, beautifully rendered, side, if I remember correctly, side 3. Correct me if I'm wrong. Side 3 that crashes into Australia. I mean, in the continent of Oceania. Like it does in the original Gundam, but, it's re-rendered, it's nowhere comparable to how it's depicted in Gundam the Origin, but it's as a result of the new designs, styles, and sensibilities of the mechanical designer on the project, who's worked on Evangelion. We see a re-envisioning of the technology of the Gundam universe. So we see old animation technique of where it's like you're watching the original scene like you would from the films or the TV anime, but it's remade to where it's like, oh my god, no, this is what I would have if I was there at the time. This is what a proper remake, the thing that everyone has asked for out of Gundam, okay? And from there we move to the iconic scene of where the Zaku's enter into Side 7. But here's where things change. you see a red mobile suit rather than the 3 green Zaku's. Now, this red mobile suit, if you haven't experienced original Gundam, or your handful of Gundam knowledge, immediately, and even individuals that I talked to after the watch it, are like, oh yeah, it was Char. Char Aznable is on the recon mission with the other Zaku's on for the recon on Site 7, in which is a stark contrast to the original series, because originally, Shohar stays in his Mushi's ship as these individuals go on the recon mission. Standing as a bystander, as an individual, just, making sure that they're doing their jobs correctly. And as a result of that, that leads to, the silliness and comedy that happens in the Gundam series, that then leads to Amuro becoming the pilot of the RX-78 Well, as Char is the one to join the recon, and circumstances changes because, they're more precise. They're like, okay, we are like strategizing, like, here, take out this, that, whatever, as things go into chaos, Char immediately takes, advantage of the opportunity here, of the situation, and he leaves his red Zaku, his iconic red Zaku that is customized to his liking to fit his new type abilities, and he enters into the cockpit of the RX-78 in the RX-78 he goes out and shoots a bunch of the spare parts or whatever that they had on there, and where you see Amuro's father, cameo for Amuro's father, is like, oh, our mobile suits are not supposed to be doing that. What's going on here? And then, because here you don't they don't show whatever happens to, they don't show Amuro, they don't show Kai, they don't show Hayato, they don't show Frau, they don't show the introductions of our 4 main characters from the original series, up to this point. It's just Char. And so then you see a red mobile suit just come out of from the base here, and where, if I remember correctly, by this time of the show or something, no, it's likely right after, but it's besides the point. It's a gun cannon that comes out, and I'm like, originally I thought, oh my god, this is Amuro Ray. This must be Amuro Ray. And because what happens is that Char kills the pilot of that mobile suit, and it's a parallel, that the action is a parallel to what the gun cannon does to the Zaku in the original TV anime / films. But who actually died here is Kai Shiran. He's our first, change, well, besides the Char joining the pilot, but he's the first character from the original series to have died here in this situation. I was like, I was flabbergasted, like, no, Char. Like, I love the change that was happening, but I also like hate it because, like, I have such a strong association with the original series. In following that, Char Zaku gets picked up by the Federation, but as Char has the Gundam here, has taken out the gun cannon, and likely killed Kai, he goes to find the White Pegasus ship, and you see the original captain for White Base, who in the show he dies, passes away from I believe, all the ruckus or whatever, the colony. No, he dies from shrapnel as they're leaving Side 7 as a result of, the Mushi class ship, and all the, turmoil and everything like that they have to go through to leave Side 7 before they go off their trek. to Earth in the original series with White Base. But you see the original captain here, and you see Char's Gundam here, and then you see him describing just like, oh my god, this is Char's Gundam, and Char takes his beam saber and explodes the bridge of White Base, and I'm like, because who's second in command to the captain is Bright Noah, who then becomes the captain of White Base. And I'm sorry I call it White Base because I'm just associating it with the Japanese title and pronunciation for the chip. But Bright Noah dies here at this moment. And where I was like, no, and this is how the film goes on, the introduction, because Char takes what would be Amado's Gundam. Zeon takes what would be the Pegasus class ship, White Base, from the Federation, which is like the key thing that brought victory for the Federation in the original series. It was the whole camaraderie, the friendships, and the family of White Base that led to the successful win by the Federation for Gundam. And key players Kai and Bright Noah are dead. Following this, as Zeon's taken White Base and turned Char's Gundam red and all this stuff, they have I forgot what's the lead up or whatever, but then you have a battle between Char's old Zaku, which has been painted orange here, and then the Gundam G1, the G1 Gundam, or the RX-78-1 Gundam here, and immediately, well, it's like, if you know the series enough, and I was about to describe it as like new type power, but that's not real. But it's like the notion in what's given off is that this is Amado and Hayato working together. Hayato being the pilot for the gun cannon, Amado's best friend, as I've said earlier. But it's Amado and Hayato versus Char. And it's a bloodbath. Char immediately eliminates Hayato and the Zaku. And I'm getting emotional because, like, Hayato's like one of my favorite characters. My god, it's like, oh god. And he does his iconic kick against Amado, but you don't see the reaction within the mobile suits that you would typically see in the original series, because you don't need to see their faces to really understand implicitly like what is going on here, and modern story conventions and all that jazz, but it hit me to my core. I was very emotional, and I probably made it like a bad experience for everyone else, because they're like, fucking calm the fuck down. Like, I don't understand. I only watch Gundam Seed or G Witch or whatever. Yeah. And I won't go too much, but following this, if you follow me on Blue Sky, you saw as I live tweeted the film, but Char gets his new type test, and it comes back positive that he's a new type, and so Zeon is looking into Cecilia, if I remember correctly, who has a place favor for Char in the Zeon family, the Daikun family. So gets positive, and so Xeon starts initializing like, hey, we're gonna be investing in new type technology, which is actually, well, in the original series, as far as it goes, is Lala Soon. Like Lala Soon, and making Char more, mobile suits to essentially sell toys to children, pretty much. But in the novel, if you read the light novel, um, you see, they have like an institute for new types and developing new type technology and all that stuff, and it's all explored within the second novel. Um, but this is what's presented in the show, and that Xeon looks into, which then led, well, which the original series also has forgot what it's called, the funnels. That's what I describe it. They're where they're controlled by your new type abilities, essentially. Um, so you can command, little drones with your mind to destroy objects and attack things. In the original show, that was Lala Soon's mobile armor, and then that led into Char's Zeong mobile suit at the end of the show. Um, but here in the film, what happens instead is that they choose to still go with the mobile armor project, but instead give the fin funnels or whatever to Char's Red Gundam, and they give Char what they call a math. And this is where one of the newer characters comes into play. Forgive me, take me a moment. Okay, original character from the original series, Ball, Chichilla, which I honestly, it's a blink and you miss character from the series that I likely don't remember, but if I want to recall it correctly, he is in the novel, and where he has a pivotal scene in where Ishiki Tomino writes about like how he like prefers like plump women or something like that from the novels, because that's like a section that I pass when I've been reading the novels, while with a meeting with Durin Zabi. Although I'll see if anyone who reads the Gundam novels correct me in the comments down below. But he's a pivotal character here in Gquuuuuux, in where he becomes Char's Mav. And what a Mav is, from my understanding, is the Mav essentially acts as like your co-pilot, in which like our younger characters also like I'll explain it later on, but a Mav essentially is a new type, but watches your back essentially, or you something more or less that. That's the basics that I understood it as. And he becomes Char's Mav, and I swear, they make Char look very, very, to say the least, attractive and little flamboyant with Ball, to where, one of the things that like I was like, oh my god, Char. It was the scene between Ball and Char when they were having glasses of wine together, and they were discussing, Char's plan that he has for the war and everything. So, from there, I'm just gonna cut to the chase, to where the end of the 1 year war, in which like it surprised me, if I want to describe it that way, but it's more like um, I was waiting for this character's appearance. Like I said earlier, my seat was G3. My favorite Gundam is the G3 Gundam, and one of my favorite characters from the original Gundam series is Sayla Mas. Sayla Mas, who, if you watch Origin or, the general lore of everything else, like, she is Char's sister. Char is Casval, and she is Autotacia, uh, and children of Zeon. Uh, and she shows up, and she has a battle with Char inside of, Luna Tomb. And, this is as, the Federation essentially are, their hands are behind their backs, like they're in a pinch, they're in a corner, and so what they decide to like be like, if we can't win the war, Zeon can't win the war, is that they try to drop Luna 2 on the moon, in which Zeon has taken its post. And what happened, and so what Char has to do is activate a bomb into Luna 2, so to thwart the Federation's plans here. With Cecilia, staying on the moon, essentially, like, if the Zeon, if the Zeon, if the Daikun, if the Sazabi family, daughter, left her post, this would be seen as weakness for the, Zeon. And so Char does his own plan, and where it's like, no, I want this to end the war, and so I can come out on top on this. But then you see a Gundam. I don't know. It's like a mix of the Origin Gundam with like a GM. I don't know how to describe it, but I want a model kit of this because, like, it's Sayla Mas's Gundam. Like, it's her Gundam. The original series, it's the core booster slash gosh, I don't even have the name of it, but in the films it's the core booster. And so she confronts her brother in this one moment, and they activate their new type powers. They have a small battle, and what that leads to is essentially a bomb. The explosion. I don't know how to describe it, but an explosion, and Char disappears. And the Federation lose the 1-year war. And that's the film's first act and everything. Like, that's what changes, and Char's Mav is like shocked by this, but it's like, it's like the energy or whatever. And what's playing through the speakers of the theater is essentially Lala Soon's singing music. I don't know where Lala Soon's exists in this universe, or even what happens with Sayla, following what happens here. But what happens from here on is you cut to 5 years after the war. This would be the period for like Zeta Gundam or whatever the sort. But is Ball and a small team of Zeon recruits or whatever. They're inside of White Base, but they renamed it to whatever, and it's like Zeonified. So honestly, I could care less. I'm gonna name the ship. It's White Base. And following the war, Zeon has sold off mobile suits to whoever's the highest bidder, just to to sell it to normal folks. And so normal folks take these Zaku's and mobile suits, and they battle with them. And with it, they they're on they're on the track to go to side 6. Um, and you have the G-Quirks, and where Ball has feels Char's Gundam's presence, but he recognizes that's not necessarily Char, but still he goes with his whatever plan that he has here on side 6, and where he has the test pilot for the Gundam go out and make a whole ruckus, and then we then meet our main protagonist here, Machu, and her friend Nyan. And Nyan, works black market. She does a courier or whatever for illegal business essentially. And I'm surprised about Machu. Is she's like so like strong and like a direct result and reflection of the characterization and the whole character arc of Shinji Ikari within the Rebuild films, of where he becomes like independent, becomes sure of himself, and it becomes his own person. Like she gets angry, emotional, and just like I don't know. It's a it's a breath of fresh air for like for the type of work that that I'm interested in on Anno's filmography, and direction by Kazuya Tsutamaki. To characterize a protagonist, because like I would expect it to be like some dumb ditzy whatever character, because she looks cute based on the art style and how the characters look and everything. So what happens is Machu, whatever, it leads to Machu and Yan eventually getting involved with the team to do the illegal Gundam battles here. And she gets dressed up and everything like that, meets the people, and she eventually finds out, finds the G-Quirks in a tunnel and pilots it. Like you would expect from like Amado Ray or whatever, because like there's a Zaku police whatever suit that, because Side 6 is neutral, they don't want any Zeon forces involved with it, the colony. And what I have to imagine here, and I'm thinking about this at the moment, is that Cameron was able to get Mirai onto Side 6 and find, whatever, and get married to her. Because we see an appearance by Cameron in the film, which is a character from the original Gundam, and he also appears in the film Char's Counterattack. And Mirai is the wife to Bright Noah, who died way earlier in the film and whatever. Important character for the original series, and who gives birth to Hathaway Noah, and she's also the individual who essentially helms the ship and steers the ship, White Base, in the original series. Because of Char's Gundam being in the presence of Side 6, there's like a whole battle that happens between the G-Quirks versus the Red Gundam, and where Ball's like, oh, this isn't Char's Gundam. I mean, Char isn't in the Gundam. But, following all this stuff and Machu getting the G-Quirks, she has a mobile suit and, uses Nyan as a Mav. Well, no. It's not Nyan. But, she makes friends with Nyan. And then also the pilot for the Red Gundam, which she finds doing graffiti and everything like that. And as they both have heard what she calls like the Taki, Machu describes it, and I think Char describes it also, which is describing Lala Soon's music. So And if I think about it right here, you know, it's like all these characters that died in this series or whatever up to this point, like they're all new types. You know, Hayato, Amuro, Kai, Bright, you know, assuming that the Mirai is alive, um, you know, I'm assuming Sayla is also alive because, you know, we didn't see her die or anything like that in the explosion of Char. But, you know, as a result of Char's disappearance and everything like that, yeah, what Ball wants to find out is whatever happened to Char, and getting and has a plan in place for Machu. This is very reminiscent to Evangelion in the sense that, like, the Dead Sea Scrolls for Shinji Ikari, like, there's a prophecy that Shinji Ikari is to fulfill that, you know, leads to the whole plot of Evangelion. But also, you know, whatever relationship that he had with Char. Because he clearly misses him and, you know, to say the least, pines for him. At least that's what I interpret. And what I can project onto the screen. I can have my own opinion, my interpretation of the text, whatever. But, so, with everything, you know, the film ends with Machu and the pilot of the Red Gundam with his name, being, of, Shuji, sort of reminiscent to, like, Shinji or whatever, and where, like, oh, well, his name is reminiscent of Shinji Ikari, but it's Shuji Ito, and, yeah, they get into battle. Their new type powers, because Machi uses, essentially Shuji, who's the pilot of the Red Gundam, as her MAF for the, Gundam battles. So, with everything, yeah, the film essentially ends to where it's like, oh, Machu's like, you know, it sets up everything that is to then follow up on once the series finally, like, releases in April, coming up soon. And overall, like, I thought it was a great experience, especially the remake of the original Gundam at the beginning, and that majority of what I've talked about was about that. And, you know, I really like Machu. I like what they're developing here with Machu and Nyan as, like, friends. I would sort of, like, prefer or like it if, like, I don't know, whatever relationship Machu has with Shuji was like, I don't know. I think a lot of people expect a year, in which that was that was a text. Like, it's not subtle about it, but it's more like baiting the audience on whatever. Because Machu also develops feelings for Shuji, which, like, whatever. But at the end of the day, these are, like, you know, young anime characters and fictional whatever. It's like, why should I really even care? But, you know, it's like whatever the audience wants, so it's like, whatever. Although, you know, the great thing about it is just the animation, the work, the designs, the passion, everything, all that energy is like, I can feel it coursing through my veins and expressed through the screen for the audience to enjoy. And, like, I can't help but to appreciate that from all the parties involved on this project, from Kara, Sunrise, and the directors, designers, and animators working on here. And music and the visuals. The music was incredible because he used earlier in the film the original Gundam soundtrack, in which like I was humming and what the pretending to be like a music director. Like I was doing all the signs for the music. I have listened to the original soundtrack like by heart. I know it by heart, and it's like just like what can else can I do? What else can I do? I love Gundam. I love the original series. Um, this film is really incredible. I look forward to what is to come for the upcoming series. If you're Bandai out there, I mean, if you haven't watched it on previous version, you know what's the situation. If you can't support the Patreon, but like, Bandai, please release like a Gundam, a G3 Gundam or whatever that is Sailor Mass's Gundam from that has a small appearance here in the film. I hope that reappears later in the series itself. Maybe we even see an appearance of like older Sailor Mass. Because the most that we get from the original UC is that she ends up in a beach by the time of Gundam Unicorn with Kai. But I don't know. Good movie. If you can watch it, go watch it. By the time this is out, the movie is probably out, but at least it gave you a great synopsis and analysis for you to be excited for coming this April for when the series comes out. And since the film was distributed by Toho slash G-Kids, I hope to assume that the series will likely appear on Crunchyroll and also Hulu. Let's not forget about that, because of their release strategy for Dandadan and Witch Watch. I know Witch Watch is coming onto Netflix, but for the release of Dandadan, which was day and date or something like that for the dub and sub, I don't know if we're gonna see that for this project, but it was released on Netflix and also Hulu at the same time as Crunchyroll got the episodes and stuff. Which is a similar thing that we've been seeing with Toei Animation with their release strategy for Dragon Ball Daima. Although, this is long enough. I'm an hour in here. I greatly appreciate everyone who has stayed this far, and support the program if you can. If you don't, liking and sharing and commenting on the video goes a long way to push this to new audiences and stuff like that. Remember, keep studying, keep reading, keep watching anime. Thank you so much. Also, signing out.